And good evening, everyone. There's nothing on the screen right now. I don't know why that is. You can probably hear us. Hello, Marty. Say hello, Marty.
Hi.
Our professionalism is as intact as ever. Hold on. Hopefully, will that get that up on this? Yes, there we are. You can see us now, can't you? Yeah, the chat room can see you.
Now we can, yeah.
They're all applauding the King of Norway. So, so as you can see, there's only two of us tonight. So, you know, I have to unfortunately tell you we won't be doing the live ponage. Like,
sorry.
Yeah, there's just two isn't enough to do this kind of thing, to go through a whole video like this. I don't know what else we can say. Kitch had to drop out, and Angry Pumpkin has got some real life stuff to take care of at the moment, and the rest of the tool team have also got a real life thing. So it's just myself and Marty, and yeah, just whatever.
Yeah, we're just going to improvise.
Yeah, we're going to improvise because he's all turned up to watch this, and we feel a bit bad. Well, yeah, at least Angry Pumpkin is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we knew we'd get that kind of reception. But anyway, Marty, you can give us an update on stuff.
Well, I've been very busy for a couple of weeks now. Basically, ever since things calmed down after the wedding, I got a new job working at a new school, and the semester is starting now, so I had to prepare a hell of a lot, and then the students showed up and all the planning went to shit as expected, and things haven't really calmed down yet after that, so hopefully I'll be back to making videos within the week or something like that. I know I said that before, but yeah. And yeah, you can probably hear dinosaurs.
Yep. Yeah, I've heard them up close. And what you people hear in the videos, it's nothing compared to when you're sitting in the same room as these things.
Yeah, they can be really annoying at times, but I just, I'm so accustomed to them that usually it's like, it would be more annoying if I didn't hear it.
Yeah. I don't know what else. Other update? Yeah, I've gotten back into video making, as you probably all saw. I've done my first video. It was a little bit
Skeptical Lizard.
Yeah, the Skeptical Lizard. This guy, no, it's not this guy. That's the star of that show. The other one's hiding in his little hidey hole at the moment. He's gotten camera shy tonight, of all nights. But yeah, I've done my first video on that. I've been looking back, just a nice kind of rough idea to see what I can improve to make the next few videos bad, but there is plenty coming up with that. I've got loads, I've got a huge list of things, and I think I'm going to be collaborating with Marty on a few things with that as well.
Yeah, I recorded some dinosaur footage. We'll see if we can use that somehow.
And as for me personally, I got back from Marty's wedding, then I had another friend's wedding, and in a few weeks after that, we've also been working on the new format tool show.
Oh yeah, that's
We've recorded a good few segments for it, and it's going to get cut together very soon. Hopefully, we are hoping that end of the month, well, that'll be next week, we'll have a brand new episode ready for you, and we can launch a Patreon scheme as well. You two going to play with your dicks all day. Oh.
We have a troll, how nice.
Oh, well. But, yeah, that's...
And yes, Top Hat, I am blonde. It's the lighting, it's fluorescent lighting that can do this.
But the other thing I was going to say, in my personal life, I've started to learn how to code as well. And that's going to be of no interest to anyone in any video whatsoever, me going over to coding in C. And yes, we might as well mention...
And bothering me about it.
Yes.
Yeah, I used to do some coding in C when I was modding Neverwinter Nights way back. So I kind of taught myself. Some of that is still somewhere in the back of my head.
Yep. And we might as well mention the lovely intro that you saw was from Marty Ziller. So thank you very much for that. He's going to be he's doing some fine tuning to that intro. But thanks very much for that. We really do love it. So keep working on it.
Speaking of fine tuning, because I was just writing a script for a video that has to do with the fine tuning argument. I'm gonna go back to doing some Billy Craig opponents. Actually, I was starting that. I did the William Lane Craig is wrong about relativity, but I was planning on doing William Lane Craig is wrong about cosmology, and wrong about fine tuning, and wrong about ontology, and so on and so on. And I was actually getting into that, and then I found Jordan. Thank you. I'm trying to get back to that now.
But yeah, there was something else I showed you the other night, which you said you're considering for a series. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't make any sense to... Like, it's so nonsensical, there's nothing to actually start with from it.
Yep.
But yeah, like everyone is asking, I see if you... Yeah, it's C I'm learning at the moment. I'm teaching myself how to program in C. I'm actually going to be buying myself a Raspberry Pi soon to experiment with that, writing some code. Like I said, it's just it's very quiet at my work, so I decided to start teaching me at my work. Seemed to be happy with me doing that. And yeah, don't know what else. If anyone wants to join in the conversation, just hit us up on the old Skype, Trolling with Logic, all one word. Just add us in, because I do have someone from Scottish Secularist Society who said he'd jump in, so I'll add him in. Give me a second, you can entertain the crowd for a little bit, Marty.
Okay. Stupid questions, come on. Let's hear some stupid questions. What is dihydrogen monoxide?
It's deadly.
How tall are you? How tall am I? 180...
Hi.
586 something?
Yep. Hi, Elliot. Or William. What shall I call you?
It's Elliot.
Elliot, alright, because like your Facebook name's completely different, so I wasn't too sure.
I know, it's because my wife and I used to share a Facebook account, so it says Elliot Ava.
Okay, yeah, what was wondering?
And my name is officially William Elliot, but I always go by Elliot.
Elliot. Sorry, I had to do that. So how are you doing?
Yeah, well, I've spent most of the day trying to sort of galvanize myself to be productive, and it's just not happened, so...
That's everybody's Saturday.
Exactly, but it's a pleasure to be here, so thank you for the open invitation and for allowing me to join in at such short notice.
No problem, we welcome this.
So, we need something to talk about.
Yep,
so.
You can bring
well,
up...
Our planning went to shit, so...
Yeah, like we were doing great for this show up until like a few hours ago, then people started dropping out and saying they couldn't make it, so...
Okay.
So if you have a topic...
excuse me, I need to answer some of those stupid questions that showed up. Let's see. Have you and Jordan ever kissed? Actually, no, we haven't. We just talked. That's all. How does purple... next to the blue. How's that? Is that stupid enough? What did you major in? That's not a stupid question. How can you talk so fluently English? I need time to phrase the answer backwards like that. I didn't learn from Yoda. How's that? How much did the jacket cost? Can't remember. Yeah.
Well, everyone, at least he's moving this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's actually moving. Usually it was just a freeze frame, you would see him all the time.
True.
But no, just to everyone who's asking, no, the live ponage is not happening tonight. There's just myself.
Yeah, we had too many people drop out at the last moment, so we're not going to be able to do it, just the two of us.
But,
sorry.
Yeah, so it will happen. We'll rearrange it, and hopefully within 2 weeks or so,
Yeah.
Because we've got lots of spare weekends in between launching the new show. But anyway, Elliot, did you have something you wanted to bring up with us?
Well, I mean, I might as well talk about the things that I claim to know something about, which overlap with the remit of the show with regard to secularism, church-state relations, and the Scottish Constitution.
Yep, go ahead.
So, can I do a quick book plug? Because my new book has just come out. It's called A Constitution for the Common Good, Strengthening Scottish Democracy After 2014. And this is my second book about constitutional issues in Scotland. And although my accent doesn't really show it, this is something that, you know, I've lived in Scotland essentially all my adult life, and it's something that I feel very passionately committed to. And one of the things that I talk about in this book is the question of church-state relations and secularism in a future Scottish constitution. And one of the things that I have realized is that most people, I think, are quite unaware of the current situation in Scotland with regards to church-state issues. And I think many more people are unaware of the range and possible consequences of constitutional choices should there be a process by which we are attempting clerics who get into that position essentially by nomination of the major churches in the area where they find themselves. And I think when people are confronted with that, many find it quite unconscionable that that should be the case. Certainly, you would go quite far and wide to find other examples of that degree of institutional kind of religious power in the delivery of education policy, for example. So I talk about how these kind of issues can be addressed. And of course, the other big one that is problematic in Scotland is the fact that you essentially cannot get a secular education at public expense in Scotland. And it would be very difficult even to get one at private expense, to be honest. Essentially, the public school system consists of two sets of schools. There are Roman Catholic schools, and there are what are called non-denominational schools, but they're not non-religious schools. And they are still visited on a regular basis by ministers from the Church of Scotland. And there are, by law, daily acts of Christian religious worship, or some parody thereof, that takes place within these schools. And the Scottish Secular Society has launched a petition and made some headway in the Scottish Parliament, although ultimately they didn't get very far, to try and change the basis of that religious observance from an opt-out basis to an opt-in basis.
Excuse me, could I just interrupt for a question here?
Sure, certainly.
What's the history of this religious observance in school? Because, I mean, sure, we had similar things in Sweden, but that was like way back. It sounds, to me, it sounds strange that it would still be even an issue.
I think the thing that you have to realize is that Sweden went through a process of reconstituting itself as a modern democratic state.
Right.
Scotland hasn't done that yet. Because of the Union and the way in which the British institutions work, the UK does not have a written constitution. Yeah, you sound surprised.
Yeah.
Everybody in every other European country is utterly surprised at this. I was speaking to a Danish friend some time ago, and he refused to believe me until I proved it.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds strange because even as I recall, the oldest part of the Swedish constitution is about the succession of the throne.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, what, don't they have even that in the UK?
Not what there isn't is anything like in Sweden. If you need to amend one of the constitutional laws, I can get very geeky about this. Okay, so if I go too far into the weeds, to stop.
Go ahead.
But to change one of the constitutional laws, you need 2 decisions of Parliament separated by an election.
Right.
And then the second time, if you don't have a 2/3 majority, there needs to be a referendum. Or if a third, rather, if a third
something like that,
insists, you need to have a referendum.
Yeah.
That sort of distinction between ordinary law and constitutional law does not exist in the UK. So every parliament that is in power is sovereign, and it can change the law as it goes along.
So in principle, your government could just decide to abolish democracy, poof, done.
Exactly.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Now you understand why I feel so passionately about this, because that's just not an acceptable state of affairs. And what's really worrying is that the one thing that does hold our government in check is the European Convention on Human Rights. And the Conservatives want to withdraw from that. So if Scotland votes no to independence, and then there's a Conservative victory in the UK general election in 2015, there's a very real risk that we could lose even that protection. And that places democracy, I think, under great jeopardy. So we haven't had that opportunity to reconstitute ourselves. And because of that, because of the low level of constitutional literacy and awareness, and really the absence until very recently of a constitutional conversation, these issues about, well, what is the proper relationship between church and state? What are the principles and the foundations and the values on which we build an inclusive democracy? They were not addressed. Instead, what we had was a kind of informal gentleman's agreement between the Church of Scotland, which has long retained an institutional power in Scotland, and the Roman Catholic Church, to basically pursue a policy of carving out aspects of the educational space between them. So Scotland has I think in total about a 15% who are nominally Catholic, which is concentrated around the Glasgow area, mainly. And in some parts of Glasgow, I think, are majority Catholic.
And I think, where I'm from, the South Youths and Barra, they're a concentration of Catholic as well.
That's right, because the local landlord was a Catholic, I think, at some point in history. And so basically you have these geographical concentrations of Catholics, and the Catholic Church was very insistent on maintaining its own schools and its own kind of institutions of social control. And so, I mean, I've heard stories of children would go to school in separate railway carriages. They're traveling by train. This was near Helensburgh. And they would basically have an orange carriage and a green carriage, if you like, for Protestants and Catholics. And so we have this system of segregated sectarian schooling, which is a wonderfully convenient system of divide and rule. Yeah. And it's played out in football. So around Glasgow, you have essentially a team that's associated with Protestants and a team that's associated with Catholics. Now, these are not religious labels primarily, they are tribal labels. But it's a tribalism that's maintained through a segregated, religiously controlled education system. So you put all this together, and we are almost in a position of having a kind of medieval state compared to most other European democracies.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like it.
So I'm very interested in how we can kind of challenge these things, and this gets into the question of, well, if you're going to have a constitution, how can we build it in such a way that these sorts of problems can be addressed? And there, I think the problem is that if we were to go in with a kind of clearly secular constitution and say no public funding of religious schools, no connection between church and state, no clerics on school boards, the problem with that is I think that it would divide not necessarily society as a whole, because I don't think most people care that much, but it would divide certain key aspects of the political elite in a way that's not helpful for democracy, the way that opens up scope for kind of a culture wars politics or for the undermining of the Constitution. So it's something that I think needs to be addressed, but it's very difficult politically to handle at a constitutional level. But one of the things is that if there is and Kat, I don't know how you stand on the independence issue, so you might disagree with all of this, I don't know. But
well, probably I'm leaning more towards yes at the moment. Like you probably see on my Facebook, I try and keep it because the debates have just gotten. I feel the debates are just getting nastier and nastier all the time. So I try and stay out of it. But no, there is some definite reform needed because, I've seen like when you're given these privileges, how they're used. Like where I'm from, obviously up in the islands, they were, these privileges are used to the absolute max by the members of the church there. Because as our audience knows, they know a good bit about. Growing up in the Isle of Lewis, what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Like you say, like to everyone else, like there's times I've been out when I first went to university in Glasgow, like they would hear my accent and then immediately assume that I was a fundy myself. So, I did get that quite a lot. So, but definitely something needs to be reformed, and the biggest enemy to this is not that. I mean, there is an opposition to it, but it's the people who just aren't bothered, who don't see a problem with it.
Yeah.
There's a huge apathetic lobby, and I find them to be a bigger obstacle than anything else. Because time after time, like I've spoken like people at work, about the religious upset, and they're just like, it's nice, it doesn't do any harm, just leave it alone. It's it's never bothered anyone before. Why should we go around, poking around with these things? That's the biggest enemy I think we face with all of this.
Absolutely. And that doesn't just extend to church-state issues, but across the whole spectrum.
Yeah.
How do you overcome that apathetic majority, perhaps, that struggle to imagine something better? Or struggle to really engage with the imagination of possibilities. They just know what they know and they kind of accept it. And that's, to my mind, that's the byproduct of a disempowered people.
Yeah.
That's what you get when people are not responsible for taking charge of their own lives and their own communities and have been told to sit down, shut up, and just take it.
Yeah.
So these things, I think, will change. One of the things that's come out of the referendum debate, although it has been bitter and polarizing in some respects, is a flowering of civic engagement.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be the upside. I think we will get, hopefully in Scotland, and maybe it might ripple on down to England and the rest of the UK, it might increase the, participation in politics a bit more. Because
I hope so.
It was nosediving very badly. Like from basically since, I would say since when Tony Blair won his first landslide, from then on it just kind of kept falling away, the actual engagement with politics.
Yes, I think the Iraq War was a crucial turning point because millions of people demonstrated against it and it happened anyway.
Yeah.
And I think people thought, well, what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
But yes, now you can see hundreds of folk going up to town hall meetings, and little old ladies and young people all getting engaged in a discussion about possibilities for the future.
Yeah.
And that's very exciting. And I think one of the things that we need to capture in that is to say, well, let's think very carefully about what it means to be a country, what it means to be a state, what the state is for, and therefore what its relationship to things like religious institutions ought to be. Mm-hmm. And my bottom line on this is that a state is for everyone. That you can't have a state that is a just state, that is a democratic state, that is for a particular religious group or a section of society. The Constitution and the institutions of the state have to serve the whole res publica, the whole community of the realm.
It's what's that book? Animal Farm. All animals are equal, but some are more equal than others.
Yeah,
that's
like
what
that.
You get if you if you have democracy, but you are only interested in the rights of one group, or you give special treatment to that group, then that's exactly what you end up getting.
Exactly that. And I think there's another danger, which is that it precludes a real discussion of civic and social values. One of the things to come out of this debate is the importance of enshrining values and principles to say who we are and what we hold in common. Now, I think it is fair to say that for most people in Scotland, a certain element of social and cultural heritage has been shaped by the experience of living in Christendom. And that is something which historically has shaped Scottish mentalities and culture and identity. But it's very different to then say, okay, but that means that we've got to have, our head of state must be a member of a church that has a special legal relationship to the state, or that, the one that gets me is this educational issue, that we should have sectarian education.
Yeah, because that just pisses me off to even hear something like that in a country that I would like to think of as a modern, shall we say, civilized country. I mean, I'm a teacher myself, and education is something I care deeply about, if nothing else, for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
So just the idea that there's religion involved, it disgusts me.
Yeah. And I don't really understand. This is something I've been struggling to work out, is what do people think they gain from this? And I've tried to engage with people. I had a conversation with Sally Foster, who is convener of the Church and Society Council for the Church of Scotland. So basically the spokesperson for the Church of Scotland on social issues. And I tried to engage her in a conversation about what is it that the church feels that it gains from having this association. And I didn't really get a very satisfactory answer. But I think ultimately it comes down to a question of power and prestige and privilege, which is very...
And the ability to brainwash people.
Yes. Yes, maybe it is. I mean, you get them while they're young, but it seems to me that I don't know whether its effect is just... does it brainwash them effectively? I don't know. I think it brainwashes them into perhaps...
It brainwashes them into accepting that the church is just
there,
a part of society that should be there.
Exactly.
And I had the same thing when my wife and I first started going out. I mean, she was an atheist all her life, but she still had this notion that there are some things you do in church, and when the subject of marriage first came up, it was obvious that we should get married in a church. And it's only then that I was like, wait, what? Are you nuts? And we had to have this discussion about how how I view religion as something that it's not just that I don't believe in it, I actively distance myself from it because I want to show that, I don't like this shit. And then when she finally got, accepted that, okay, fine, church weddings, yeah, that's a tradition that, okay, fine, let's move away from that, and we didn't get married in a church. But then she was on about, well, if we have kids, we're going to have them baptized, right? Because that's just something you do.
Yeah.
Hell no! And then it was back to having that conversation. I think we're on the same page now, but it's...
yeah, I mean, this is the really interesting thing for me, though, is, you say religion is something that is, in your view, actively bad, that you want to distance yourself from, that you'd like to see diminished in society as a whole.
Well, I wouldn't say it has to be bad, but it brings a lot of bad things with it very often.
Okay.
And because of that, I don't want it to be like a societal institution. I want it to be something personal. If what people believe is their business, but the notion of having this thing like religion is just part of society and it's something that should be there because it always has been. That's something I really want to distance myself from.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think the real fault line, if you like, is it's really not necessarily between religious or non-religious people or between atheists and theists. I think it's between really those that would like to have this kind of traditional institution fulfilling a societal role and those that don't want it to perform that role, that would recognize, its rights to exist and its social, social function, but not to see it as ingrained in the institutions of the state and society. And one of the things that I've tried to do with not only my kind of Constitution hat on, but also my Scottish Secular Society board member hat on, is to try and build bridges with religious people to try and convince them of the merits of secularism. To try and convince people who really do believe this stuff to say, okay, well, if you really believe that stuff, then surely having, institutionalized religion in the schools just makes a mockery of it, because you're turning your religion essentially into an instrument of state policy. And I haven't had a lot of success with that, which was odd because, there are some traditions within, the broader Christian spectrum, like the Unitarians, the Quakers, the Baptists, who have always maintained that. But I think with the Church of Scotland, they've had this and the Catholic Church as well, they've had this institutional privilege for so long that it's really hard to kind of make them see not only how that is unfair to everyone else, but also how it is in some ways inconsistent with their own professed principles.
Yeah. Just want to quickly introduce Pumpkin, and just with the subject we were talking about, Pumpkin, being in Northern Ireland, you've got a good take on all of this, obviously.
Yes, I do live in a shithole. The basic gist for anyone who doesn't know about Northern Ireland, in which case, man up and enjoy the party.
If
Basically,
there's booze
Northern
in a
Ireland,
riot, you're there. That's Northern Ireland, isn't it?
Yeah. If you can't start a fire with nothing but a bottle and some rags, then you're clearly in the wrong country. Basically, Northern Ireland is slightly double fucked because there's the Catholic influence from the Republic of Ireland that's sort of, hey, let's have Catholic schools fucking everywhere, and the state will pay for it, of course. And then there's the Protestant side of it, and yes, I know Catholics and Protestants basically the same thing. Anyone in the chat says otherwise, and I won't do anything. The Protestant schools are like, yeah, well, if you're having Catholic schools and we're having Protestant schools, and then they wonder why the kids grow up fucking hating each other.
Exactly. We have the same problem in Scotland, only we have knives rather than guns, so it's not so bad.
We don't use guns either. That takes the fun out of it. The basic
you use bricks and Molotovs.
Yeah, guns is for when you get to university, for crying out loud, isn't it?
No, guns is for cheap guns.
Guns are too American.
There was actually a story I heard recently of there was a kid who was planning to do a school shooting down south, and rather than call the police and create a big panic, all that happened was one of his friends showed up to his house and said, "Oi, don't be a cunt," and headbutted him. And apparently that convinced him to not shoot up the school. Which, you know, see, violence works.
I think that's what they call effective early intervention.
Yeah.
I think it's actually Northern Irish diplomacy. But yeah, I know it's in the Republic.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's this insane amount of religiosity in schools. It's like you will grow up and there's this instant us and them. It's, you know, we have it right, they have it wrong. What's the difference? Shut up and do your homework.
Yeah.
It's just instilled in you for no particular reason, and it's so ingrained that finding an integrated school is a fucking nightmare. Finding a good integrated school is nearly impossible.
Do integrated schools actually exist in Northern Ireland?
Yeah, there's I'm not sure if there's any of, I think there's one or two primary schools that are integrated near here, and I know there's a secondary school. Yeah. As for universities, by the time people get to universities now, it's just a case of, oh, well, I'm in university. Fuck it. I'm not going to church anymore. There's this element of Sundays for sleeping off hangovers, but it's more than that. People, I've noticed more lately, everyone seems to be getting a lot less up in arms about religion, except for the fucking crazies living out in the boonies who are always going to do that shit. But there's definitely more people who are relaxing, just like, you know what, fuck it. Real, not real, who gives a shit, let's have a pint.
Yeah. Because like there's the story you've always told us about when the teacher made you write a letter to the abortion clinic.
Yeah, that was entertaining. When, if anyone knows anything about Northern Ireland, it does have a lot of influence from the south, particularly in the Catholicism, and the fact that abortion is just the mother of all fucking evil. Like, how dare they try and open up a clinic for women who might be dying. But there was a clinic opened up, and need to sort something out for a second.
Okay. But yeah, it's kind of weird all across the UK. It's different, kind of like it's different in England and Wales yet again. Like, because like I said, there's no constitution for the whole of the UK. So like, Marty, you've gone orange.
Yeah.
And I'm back. Sorry about that.
That was weird. When you left, Marty turned orange, and now that you're back, he's returned to normal colour.
I'm trying to mess with the white balance just a little.
You turned into an orange man when you left.
Burned it alive.
Anyway,
but,
carry on.
Yes. So there was an abortion clinic opening up in Belfast, I think. Yeah, it was Belfast, Mary Stokes Clinic in Belfast. And as part of the joyous general RE classes for secondary, or for the last 2-year pupils, the upper and lower sixth pupils as we call them, as part of these general RE classes, which everyone had to do, we were told to write letters to politicians like Sinn Féin, the DUP, and all those fucking cunts, saying that, hey, this abortion clinic is evil, and, you know, we totally didn't take this down from the board, even though they all look the exact same. And I get into a bit of an argument with my teacher, who I hadn't had much dealings with before that. And it was like, okay, I want everyone to take some paper out and, you know, write this off the board and sign it with your name. No. Why not? Because that goes against my religion. Really? No, I don't have a religion. Go fuck yourself. This was when I was definitely in my fuck this school phase. I just fucking lost it in that class. On several occasions.
Should have gone to school wearing a spaghetti strainer on your head.
I know that sounds funny, but, you know, that won't help with the burning shrapnel.
Well, that's true.
You have to
Well,
have
it should offer a little bit of protection, I think. Not much.
Full rat gear, you know, does the job sometimes. But
it would have been fascinating to see what would have happened had that got as far as the European Court of Human Rights, because that, I would say, is a fairly blatant violation of your convention rights.
Oh, well, we were all given the choice to write it down or not to. And by that, I mean, I refused, and I think 3 other people in my year did, and we all got detention for it. But, you know, it was our choice as to whether or not we would do that. So that was fun.
Yeah.
But my favoritist moment was afterwards. I was very pissed off at this because I'm pro-choice for the simple reason that I'm not a woman. I can't choose for women whether or not they should be allowed to have abortions or not. Therefore, Mortimer has a tiny UFO on his screen.
Yes, I have a UFO on my screen.
And it's just past you, Pumpkin.
Fucking better not be shut down. But
the Jews are coming.
And suddenly we see that he's
some people got the joke and some people didn't.
I know, but, you know, we're very close to the Germans. But yeah, I flipped my shit at this and actually wrote a letter to several people. Can't even fucking remember who it was. Fuck you, Cal. Fuck you with a burning rake, you bastard and whoremongering, donkey raping, shameless and shit-eating son of a bitch bastard. It's been too long since I just started fucking rambling about something someone else talked.
I'm not sure we can follow that.
But yeah, that's...
Like, you'll follow it or you'll be dragged behind it, kicking and screaming.
You know, there are certain things that only sound menacing when you say them in a Northern Irish accent.
Get out of the car with your hands up.
Or possibly Texan, you know? It's one of those... Do you get much voice acting work?
No. I've helped a couple people with projects here and there, but, you know, I'm only 19 and I'm working full time because, you know, I need the fucking money. I don't like it when people send me random messages when I'm fucking on streams. It's like, hey, watch this video. No, go fuck yourself.
That's what the do not disturb setting is for.
Oh no, this isn't on Skype. This is on several other mediums.
All right.
Bastards.
Oh, well, did anyone else have any comment to follow that?
Not really.
No.
I was too distracted by the UFO.
Okay. Yeah, guess who's been fiddling around with green screen all week?
Now that actually is a tough question.
Given the
I'm gonna guess Jesus, because it's been a while since he did a miracle.
Yeah, but
I love the way the last time I made that joke, I got hate mail for a week. Fucking brilliant.
Anyway, do you have anything to say, Elliot, there?
I mean, I'm happy to go a little more, but...
Yeah, please do. Because like I said, we had no plan for this. Well, I don't think anyone did. Hence, that's why
No.
we've got a UFO to entertain us.
Professional as fuck.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, well,
We've never claimed to be professional.
no, I can see that.
Well,
This is actually quite a change for me. The last telephone interview I did was with the BBC. But you're more professional than that. No, I never said that.
I
It's
wouldn't
quite
be
shocking,
surprised,
actually.
actually.
Well, no, it's quite shocking, but that's a different story. It was an eye opener, to be sure. So I'm going around trying to promote this book and try and get people to think about constitutional issues and their bearing on secularism, church-state relations, and education.
well, that's it's
go
the
on.
one thing that's come to my mind. Like, well, if we say like the referendum happens and there is a yes vote, I mean, will there be constitutional reform for the rest of the UK? That's what I'm wondering about. Like, for instance, Northern Ireland, England, and Wales. Will they have, will they go through their own reform, or will they just carry on as is?
I'll be quite honest, I fucking hope not.
Yeah.
Because I get all kinds of lovely things from England, including free healthcare.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I don't know. I mean, the process in Scotland has been laid out quite clearly in the white paper, which is that there would be a kind of interim constitution, and that would then lead to a constitution building process to develop a kind of permanent constitution. Yeah. The knock-on effects for the rest of the UK, I think, are really, whether it's yes or no, are unknown. I mean, it's we don't have a crystal ball and we can't see the future. I think one of the interesting questions, if there is a yes vote and a successful constitutional transformation in Scotland, is whether the English left will look to Scotland as a model, as an example, as something that they can learn from and copy. And I think that's possible. Because if you look at our institutions at the moment, they're really very antiquated. They're 19th century at best in some ways. And if we were to adopt a modern constitution that looked like, the constitutions of Sweden or of Latvia or wherever, then that's something that that could galvanize and mobilize the English left to seek reform at Westminster. Because, how absurd is it that we have a House of Lords with 92 hereditary members who get there because their great-great-grandfather fucked a lady in waiting or whatever? That we have 26 bishops sitting in the legislature, and the rest of them are essentially government appointees who get there because they have the wisdom to make a large donation to the right political party. I mean, that is no basis for a system of government, to quote Monty Python. Well, no, because we live in a Python-esque state. That's what made their humour so good, is because they cut through this. They saw this back in the 1970s, that we live under really quite absurd and difficult to rationally defend institutions. So if Scotland goes down a process of, modernising its constitution, creating a modern constitution, then that could have implications for reformers in England to kind of copy that. I certainly think...
Cal?
Oh, fucking damn it, Cal, you son of a whore.
What? I didn't do anything.
My dinosaurs are more modern.
But...
Carry on.
Then there's the Wales issue. And one of the things is that the First Minister of Wales has said, that if Scotland became independent, then Wales would also seek greater autonomy. Probably not independence, but probably moving from something like what it has at the moment to something like what Scotland has. Situation in Northern Ireland, I cannot comment on. I just don't know enough about it. And it seems to me to be that it has other intractable issues that are difficult. What I will say, though, is I'm currently working in the Netherlands, and the Netherlands is really fascinating Because the Netherlands also has a sectarian division between Protestants and Catholics, and it also has sectarian schooling and a political system that for a long time was divided along religious lines. And yet it's a civilized, functional, tolerant place that works. And they don't, shoot each other, bomb each other, stab each other, etc. And one of the things that I've been doing since I started working here is really reading about the constitutional history, the political history of the Netherlands and how they came to this point. And I think one of the things that they did successfully was they came up with a system that enabled people who disagreed on certain fundamental things nevertheless to work together on others. So every government of the Netherlands since it became a democracy has been a coalition. They never have one party in government. And for most of the time, they've had Protestant parties and Catholic parties in government together, along with liberals and socialists and others. And it means that it takes a long time to make decisions, but the decisions that are made have to cut across these differences and actually try and say, okay, well, you think that I'm an evil heretic, and you think that I'm an evil heretic, but we both have to make sure that the roads are of good quality and that the infrastructure works. And so I think that has focused people's minds in a way. And yet, you look then to the question of how, because that takes time, yes. I think the underlying thing that really made it work was the fact that the country would flood if they didn't. So everyone has a vested interest in the Netherlands in keeping the water out. You've got to repair the dikes, because if you don't, you get killed by water. And it doesn't matter whether you're Protestant or Catholic or liberal or socialist or anything else, you're still going to get deaded. So I think that kind of existential threat did at least have a galvanizing effect on encouraging people to be cooperative. My question is whether that's the sort of thing that can only happen at a certain point in a country's history. Often now where you see an increased existential threat, rather than greater cooperation, you get more of a retreat into this kind of silo mentality of your own little subcultural fortress. So I don't know, but the Netherlands is a fascinating country simply because it stands at this sort of fault line in Europe between the predominantly Catholic part of Europe and the predominantly Protestant part of Europe. It has a large, completely non-religious population. It has a large Muslim population now. And yet it manages to handle those tensions, I think, better than most.
I received a private message here. Mariah Zeller wants me to ask you about what you think about Tony Abbott's latest remarks. I have no idea what he's talking about. But
okay,
Tony Abbott,
Tony Abbott is the Prime Minister of Australia. And he is, as far as I can work out, quite a reactionary religious conservative. And he made some remarks recently about how Scottish independence couldn't benefit the world, which I thought was a bit rich, considering that he's the Prime Minister of one of 56 countries that has become independent from the United Kingdom. And I think that's something that we ought to remember, is that, becoming independent from the United Kingdom is a well-worn path. Many countries have done this, and not one of them wants to go back, and certainly not Australia. So, it's very strange to me that he could say, well, it's okay for Australia to become independent, but it's not okay for Scotland to become independent. Why he did it? Well, I think there's a diplomatic effort by the British government to basically call in favours from all its friends. And he was doing dutifully what he was told, I would imagine. But I don't think it adds very much that's substantive or useful to the debate. All these places will come round. I mean, if it happens, it happens, the first thing will be a letter of congratulations from the Prime Minister of Australia to, you know, the First Minister of Scotland. So everyone's tune will change if it happens, because people's interests will change.
Yeah.
I do find it very entertaining, as you said, that the Australian Prime Minister is saying that, you know, other countries getting independence is useless. I mean, yeah, we used to be a fucking prison colony, but...
Exactly.
At least the Scottish can say that's just where the interesting ones went. You know, they used to get some of the more crazy fighters for their imperial campaigns out of there. But Australia's basically, yay! We were the ones that you sent off to die, you bastards.
That's true.
I think Billy Connolly said it best when he said, when the British were sending out their officers or their armies to conquer the world, they weren't sending out a bunch of Nigels to go, oh, hello, move over there, please. I'm trying to build a bit of an empire here. No, they're sending the fucking crazy Scotsmen in with bagpipes, drums, and shotguns, and just fucking la-da-da, la-la-la.
And the sad thing is, really, that if you look at the history of it, a lot of those Scots joined up into the armed forces because they had so few other economic opportunities. That the Union had enclosed the land and driven people off it, and people were basically left with no choice other than, you know, to sign up for a very harsh life doing the Empire's dirty work. Has he gone?
Who?
Pumpkin.
I think the dinosaurs.
Oh no, it's still there. Okay.
I'm here.
Okay.
I thought you were talking about Cal.
No. I know that he's on lizard duty. But yeah, so they were basically signed up to do the dirty work of the Empire, and they did it remarkably well. I mean, I was having a conversation the other day with someone who was saying, if Scotland becomes independent, where will it get people for its armed forces? And I'm like, well, where do you think the people for the British armed forces come from? You know, not many of them come from the home counties. They come from places that are basically, you know, poor, where they don't have a lot of extra choice. So there's a wonderful song, actually, Freedom Come All Ye by Hamish Henderson, the Scottish poet. And it was sung by a South African opera singer at the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow just last month, or whenever it was, a few weeks ago. And it's a wonderful song because it really examines this ambiguity between the fact that the Scots essentially built the empire, but they were also the first victims of the empire. So they, you know, having been conquered, they then became complicit, not conquered, but essentially absorbed, became complicit in the conquering of others. And even in the First World War, apart from Serbia, if you disaggregate the numbers of Scots from the rest of the UK and imperial forces, the Scots had the highest casualty rate of any nation in the world other than Serbia. And there's a wonderful line in that Freedom Come All Ye song where it talks about how broken families in lands we've harried, as in attacked, will curse Scotland the brave, nay mair, nay mair. And as someone who used to be in the British Armed Forces, as I was, I found that a really chilling and inspiring line. That one of the benefits that could come with independence is that we might be able to have just a less aggressive foreign policy, less in this kind of old imperial mindset. Anyway, we're getting a long way from the topics of the program and just into my own little political rant.
There are no topics of this program.
Welcome to the Thunderdome.
Yep.
I'm sure you all want to hear about why religion is all bad.
Well, no, that's not all of it.
If I wanted to hear why religion was all bad, I'd just go to certain channels on YouTube and just shut off my brain with a shotgun.
Yeah.
Can I talk on that subject, though, briefly? I'm having a bit
Sure.
of a general discussion here, but obviously with the sad passing of Christopher Hitchens and recent controversies about Richard Dawkins, it's always seemed to me that Hitchens understood religion in a way that Dawkins doesn't.
Yeah.
Dawkins just does not get it. All he can see is there is a framework for understanding reality that works, that is grounded in the scientific method. There is an alternative explanation of reality that is religion that is false. Therefore, religion is false. I think Hitchens at least understood that it's not about that it's about people's identity, it's about their values. It works on a sub-rational level, but at the same time, it makes sense to people and it helps people understand the world. And you can't just educate people out of it. You might, he opposed it and he criticized it, but I think he got why people do it. He understood it and Dawkins never does that. And I find the more I listen to Dawkins,
I think Dawkins' arguments are more against creationism than religion in general, but he tries to apply them to religion in general.
Exactly.
And that just doesn't work because, like it's being said in the chat room right now, Dawkins is a scientist, not a philosopher, I've come to understand that arguing against religion is more about philosophy than about science. Science can only address the pseudoscientific aspects of religion.
It can address fact claims, but it cannot address value claims.
Right. And also religion makes a lot of claims about, claims of a factual nature, I guess you could say, but they are untestable.
Yes.
There's also the fact that religion mainly concerns
some
itself.
Some are testable, definitely, but those science can address.
Yeah.
But no, it's fine. There is definitely the problem that the majority of religions majorly concern themselves with personal belief and internal struggles with morality and so forth. Not really something you can go applying science to. I realize that there are scientific theories around the advent of morality in group species. Don't kill the people helping you, then you'll live longer, shit like that. But in general terms, religion seems to focus on the personal internal things, which are very difficult to test and falsify through science. So and that's why it's always why I've seen Dawkins sort of barking up the wrong tree at times.
Yeah.
Also because the guy just can't drink scotch.
That was something that Christopher Hitchens was never deficient in.
The idea of just, what was it, he did the interview for Penn and Teller's Bullshit, and on several occasions they had to actually say, can you just kind of finish that so we can finish the interview? He's like, yeah, sure, whatever. And just kept like knocking back more and more.
Yeah. But no. He also understood power. Do you ever see Hitchens' documentary about Saddam Hussein?
No,
I haven't seen that.
No, he did a fascinating. He's a really interesting man actually, and his writings. He's written an autobiography of Thomas Paine as well, and Thomas Paine is one of my great heroes.
Wait, if he wrote, wouldn't it be he wrote a biography and not an autobiography?
Sorry, yes, you're quite right. It's getting late, and I've been a bit lethargic all day, and my brain is tired.
No, how dare you mix up terms? You shall be sent to the pit of fire immediately.
Damn, but yeah, he did this. He wrote a biography, of Tom Paine. who's an interesting character because he laid a foundation not only for the establishment of a democratic state, but also for the foundations of a social democratic welfare system 200 years before anyone else tried this, 150 years before anyone else tried this. So that's very interesting. But yes, he did a documentary on Saddam Hussein, and I think he understood how power works, and he understood how fear works and how passion works. And I think he applied that, not necessarily very systematically, but with quite a degree of profundity to his understanding of what religion is and how religion works. Yeah. So that's my end of transmission. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out.
Yeah,
I found it on YouTube somewhere.
So,
okay, where the hell did Cal go?
I don't know. I think he's sacrificing
there
the
he
goat.
is.
No, let's just pin the lizard back in his cage.
Pay close attention, because I'm about to show you a powerful yet very simple online trading strategy that allows...
Shut up. Fucking adverts popping up in my browser there.
Yes, because you clearly weren't editing a video for your latest scam, you thieving bastard.
Oh, not at all. So, what does everyone want now?
Alcohol, give me beer.
Don't know, dinosaurs, there you go, people.
Motherfuckers.
Yeah, that's Amelia's happy with the dinosaurs.
Yes, the stoner Dutch is happy with his shiny lizards.
Yep.
I'm going to get some abuse now. Yay!
Yeah. That's what he's going to be talking about later on tonight with his friends. Oh, I was watching Mortimer on Vaughn, and there was dinosaurs running around him. And they were going, yeah, sure you were.
Fucking dinosaurs everywhere, it was brilliant. Yes! Okay, we need to get the weed away. Wait, actually, that's a good point. Did we ever get around for doing the end of Reefer Madness?
No, we should do that sometime.
We did. We left it on such a cliffhanger.
Yeah, they were about to give the verdict in the court case.
I mean, you know, it was such an open and shut case, or...
Well, such a cliffhanger, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say it's, you know, Italian Job level of cliffhanger, but, you know, sort of there. Maybe Italian Job.
What did the guy
remake.
actually do? He shot the other guy who was with his girlfriend or something?
Yes,
And
something
he
like that.
kind of... Well, it was made out that he ran over this old guy, but he kind of drove by him very slowly and brushed by. And
I
this
think
old
what
guy
it
kinda
was
tumbled.
he got baked and saw his girlfriend getting baked and the other guy trying to rape her, and then just stepped in and was like, no, and hit the other guy. The guy shot her, and then he put the gun in his hand and was like, look what you did, you evil bastard. Isn't it good that this thing wears off really quickly and totally doesn't stay in your system for days?
Yeah. Yeah, we will have to do the end of it. Well, we'll probably have to do the whole film again.
Yeah, I can barely remember it because I was so exhausted.
Like, we're all kind of... I think being baked at that point wouldn't have made any difference to the state any of us were in.
I think I kept trying to do a fucking, like, gangster, like, fucking... like, ye olde gangster. Yeah, see? Sort of...
You were doing your kind of, I don't know, old radio style voice. Which you kept
Meanwhile, on Mount Fuji.
You kept going into Sean Connery all the time for some weird reason.
No, it was because I think at one stage you said, are you trying to do a Sean Connery? So then I just said...
You just went into Sean Connery.
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I asked you, why the hell have you turned into Sean Connery? And you go, I don't know.
I'm not quite sure, Miss Moneypenny.
I've suddenly turned into Sean... Yes, we're into Sean Connery impressions now. Marty, let's hear yours. Everyone wants to hear Norwegian.
Let's hear the Norwegian try to be Scottish.
No. I don't think I could do that at all.
Go for it, you pussy.
Hello, Pushy. I don't know. No,
And make sure you recorded that, because I want to be able to use that at him anytime I want.
Yep,
Yeah.
whenever you get into any drama with Marty now, you can play that clip.
Someone in the chat asking, what's my view on oceans? Well, if you've
They're
ever
wet.
seen my video, fucking oceans thinking they're so awesome, what have they ever done for us? They just sit there all salty and undrinkable thinking, ooh, wood floats on me, but fuck you guys. Fucking oceans. What the hell, Cal? Really? Really? Really?
Yes, really.
Fucking damn it.
Hey, I control the stream, so... What other quality show gives you all this kind of stuff? Dinosaurs and aliens and UFOs?
The History Channel?
Oh,
I'm not
Good
saying
point.
it was oceans, but it was oceans.
Someone said Doctor Who can give you all of this kind of stuff as well.
Doctor Who, thinking he's all fucking smart because he can time travel.
Do you know, does the chat room have any questions for us? I think we've...
I'm quite happy to take questions on things.
Are you my mommy? No, Amiria.
No, but I am in the process of getting a gas mask, so maybe.
No questions on the chat. Bloody hell, you guys are quiet tonight.
Well, I'm in from work, looking forward to my week off work. If any of you fucking whores bother me, I'll gut the lot of you. But yeah, I'm just kind of enjoying the chill. And I'm starting to think that if you were to just take the arms and mouth away, it'd just be a very bloody penis.
Ah, there you go. Which way do you think the vote's going to go, Elliot?
Oh, it's too close to call. Could go either way. I mean,
Yeah, that's one problem I'm finding is... I don't know, this is just from my perspective on the ground, that I don't see the polls reflecting what I see when I'm walking out in the street or driving to and from work. I really don't see... They all say that the no campaign is very much in the lead, but everywhere I look, it's yes signs I see. I don't know, is that the same for you, Elliot?
yes, and there's a very interesting... The Radical Independence campaign have recently done a mass canvass where they went round housing schemes, basically, and the poor parts of towns, and asked the people who are not getting asked by professional pollsters. A lot of the time because they don't have a landline telephone, or they don't have someone in the house at the time that traditional telephone calls call. And these people, these missing million, are getting excluded from the official polls. And when they polled these people, what they discovered is that there were about 2/3 in favour of independence, sometimes more.
Yeah. And it's also the biggest sample of any poll that's happened yet.
Exactly.
It was
So, and don't forget that a lot of polling companies are used to doing UK-wide polls. So they might select often, 1,000 people UK-wide, of which 80 will be from Scotland. And it's very difficult to get anything that's statistically significant with 80. Yeah. So I think there is a lot of underreporting. I certainly think there's a difference in the degree of passion. Most of those who are rooting for a yes vote have wanted this for a long time. They see it as a great opportunity. They are committed to it. They're passionate about it. They want to win. They're working flat out for it. Right. Those who are leaning towards no, for the most part, it's, well, I don't know, maybe not. And they just don't have that power and passion behind them. And so I think one of the key things will be who turns out to vote. And I imagine that for the yes voters, there'll be a higher turnout than for no voters, because it's really hard to go and vote against.
Well, because you're just voting for a status quo. And
Yeah.
it's usually, in any political battle, the ones voting for the change, they're always the more passionate, because basically that's, like I say...
That's motivating them.
Yeah, that's you've already got a motive, you're going for a change, whereas if you're on the status quo side, you think, well, things are the way they are, and I'm happy with it.
That's true, but I mean, the no side is not the status quo to remain actually as it is. The status quo is the best case scenario of a no side.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at predictions of the long-term outlook for the UK, you look at the policies that are coming out of both major political parties at Westminster, the status quo will be lucky.
Yeah.
Things will get. This is my personal opinion, but I think it's a well-researched and reasonable opinion. Is that things are going to get a lot worse if it's a status quo.
Yeah.
There'll be big cuts because of the way the funding works, and there will be a backlash as well. And I think it could get really quite difficult. And I fear that it could be a no, but 2 years down the line we'll really regret it. And by that point, it might be much harder to have a second opportunity.
I think
Go on.
there may be a big problem for trying to get the yes vote for independence, which is a lot of Scottish people seem to be under the delusion that, oh, well, we have the oil, and that's good, completely forgetting the fact that those are owned by joint companies from the UK and Netherlands, neither of which are going to give up such a massive fucking cash cow to what will be an untested democracy.
Yeah, because that's like the advantage that Norway had when they discovered the oil, was they managed to set up their own government-run company, which got a huge wedge of all the oil cash.
Yeah.
Whereas,
but you see, that shows the importance of having a democratic state that actually wants to use these resources for the public good. I mean, my view on oil is that it's really more of a liability than an asset. If you look at around the world, oil is something that
causes the Americans to invade.
Yeah, you really don't want to have it. And I think the safest bet there probably is to guarantee, and this will be done, and if there's a yes vote, this will be done, is that there'll be an agreement with the oil companies for the foreseeable future to say, the deal that you had with the UK government, you'll get the same deal from us. So, the companies are going to be unaffected. It's just that the tax revenue stream, which is significant, will be redirected from the UK government to the Scottish government. But I don't think that there'll be any realistic prospect of, doing a Hugo Chavez or whatever and trying to nationalize the oil industry. It's not going to feasibly happen.
Yeah.
And it will be hilarious if they try and take the rigs by force. Fucking Dutch Marines trying to deal with that shit. That'll be fucking easy.
If it is a win for yes, I think it'll be incredible, because the other thing is they've had a very hostile media as well. I think that's one. Everyone even I've heard no campaigners say that they've been very lucky with the media have been so nice to them.
Yes, I mean the British Broadcasting Corporation exists to support the British state.
Yeah.
So they were never expecting to have a fair deal from, the yes side were never expecting to have a fair deal from them. I think one of the things that's really interesting, though, is how the media has changed and how
they're softening
online media has kind of stepped up into that role. It's going to be close. I mean, I think there's this apathy, there's this dead weight. I don't think there's really more than about, this is unscientific and is based on my anecdotal experience, I don't think there's more than about 20% of people in Scotland that really passionately care about the union. And I think there's probably about a third that really passionately care about independence.
Yeah.
And it's the everyone in the middle that has to be swung. And I think the Yes campaign has had, and I don't say this merely because I support it, I say it just because it's also a reflection of the facts. They've had the passion, the energy, the creativity, the humor, the vision, that they've been out there creating this buzz. And the no side has just tried to sort of throw spanners at it. Mm-hmm. But the question will be, and what it turns on will be, how effective has that online buzz, that buzz amongst the chattering classes, etc., been in getting through to the unreached apathetic middle ground?
Yeah. And
if they have, then a yes vote will win. And if they haven't, then a no vote will win. Okay. And that's where the deciding ground is. Yeah. But we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I'm thinking what the party's going to be like on the 19th of September. If we wake up and have decided to take responsibility for Scotland's future in our own democratic hands, I think there's going to be a spontaneous street party. And I think that a lot of those who have voted no or haven't voted because they don't have the confidence in that will actually be quite happy in a way, even with that outcome. Yeah. Because someone else would have taken responsibility for it. Yeah. But if those people have said, we're going to do this, I think they will come around to it in the same way as, with the devolution referendum in 1997. Okay, a third of the people voted against. But once it had happened, everyone came up behind it.
Yeah.
So I think that seems to play out in a way that is more constructive than if it's a no vote. And then we end up in a situation where maybe 48% of the people have voted against the authority of the state in which they live. And I don't think they will come around.
Yeah.
They're going to be hardened. So, I see greater risks of division in the event of a no vote and greater potential for some kind of new unity if it's a yes. Yeah. Maybe that's just optimism speaking. I don't know.
I don't get all of this talk of democracy, because I get that you're saying, yes votes, no votes, but there's no riots, there's no burning buildings, there's no shouting random obscenities through a megaphone in front of a banner promoting one of the parties.
I think you have a very local, regional view of what democracy is, Pumpkin.
I mean,
it seems to be that way out in the Middle East as well, so I'm fairly exotic in that regard.
Well, we've got a little bit of we do have some marching over here, though, in July, so we have a little bit of your influence in Scotland.
Yeah, but are there any car bombs around it?
There's a lot of drunk people around it.
Yeah, no, we are mercifully lacking in that sort of level of sectarianism, which is a good thing.
But that takes all of the fun out of it. If you can't burn down your neighbour's house and help him claim the insurance afterwards, then there's just no love.
Or if you can't phone in a bomb threat because you can't be arsed going to work.
Yeah, I've done that before.
I was just going to say this quite briefly. I don't know, well, Elliot or if anyone else is interested, I am considering on the night of the vote doing a stream where, hopefully I can network with you guys or any other Scotland and we can talk about it and sit back and watch the results go in and do a stream on here maybe. I'm thinking of trying to get a hold of D. Landon Cole because, he's kind of the man for politics basically. So Elliot, you should throw that out to the society if anyone's interested in doing that.
Okay, no, that's a really good idea.
Because there'll be the news coverage, so maybe just an informal thing that people could have a look at.
Yes, that would be a good idea. My wife is threatening to move into a hotel for the night of the vote. Because she says that she can't stand the the tension and the excitement if I'm here watching it. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could just give her some chloroform.
Yeah. No, but I am concerned. I'll speak to the rest in our group, Elliot, about doing that. Because I thought it'd be a nice idea, kind of. You know, if people are, you know, they don't have anywhere to go in the night, you know, they've got folk they can talk to rather than watching the TV. And like I said, and that guy D. Landon Coley's on YouTube, and he's basically, what he doesn't know about politics is not worth knowing. He is really one of the smartest guys when it comes to politics.
Okay.
Was one thing I wanted to bring up, and this is something myself and Marty spoke about this last night. And it was when you mirrored the trailer, there was this guy who brought up this issue about why debunk such stupid ideas, and why aren't we, you know, bettering ourselves and all this. And I've really got to address this because I got it on my new Skeptical Lizard videos. And it is basically, like I say, one of the most I've learned from physics was when cool hard logic started debunking geocentrism. Like, it's a stupid idea, but if you rebut it in such a way, then you can actually explain a lot of good concepts. It's good for getting those. I mean, I don't know, do you do that when you're teaching, Marty, maybe? Like maybe use...
Yeah, I try to take advantage of that, use non-controversial issues. I mean, geocentrism would definitely qualify.
Or like a flat earth or something, because
you
can explain a lot of things, like how do we measure the circumference of the earth?
Yeah,
it's like
you can get a lot of interesting stuff.
Yeah,
talked about.
And it's just a criticism that I saw, like I said, on the mirror when you mirrored the trailer for this, what we were meant to be doing tonight, and it's something it always comes up. Why keep debunking the creationists and all that? So well, debunking it, you are actually explaining some good concepts to people.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just you guys are wrong. It's you guys are wrong because.
And
enter science lesson.
And it's even someone who isn't a creation, who does accept evil, they can get a better understanding of these things.
Yes.
That's a lot of what we do. I mean, yeah, there is humour and sarcasm and insults traded in making these videos.
But that only adds to the educational value because it attracts an audience that may not be interested in the science bit. They're interested in having a laugh. So they're getting the lesson for free.
Yeah, so like, what you're saying is I'm helping education by being a cunt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck.
No, but like you say, when you like especially in these scientific things, like Marty Zuller's pointing out, like he's doing a series on flat earthers right now, but like he's saying it's helping explain a lot of concepts in geometry and. You know, a lot of people, their only knowledge of geometry is, oh, that's shapes, but there's a lot more. There's some, like without geometry, we wouldn't have engineering and things like that.
Who needs engineering?
Yeah, what's it ever done for us?
Yeah, especially the ones without borders, thinking they're so fucking edgy.
Yep. Just for everyone that's interested, like with Marizola, he's actually scored himself the first guest spot on the new format show, where we have like our listeners submit material, and he has won that coveted spot on the pilot episode, so you'll get to hear a little bit of it, and he'll shout his channel out on there.
Yeah.
It's Pumpkin, you're humming.
Yeah, I think it's my computer being retarded.
Right.
Do you know what I'd like to see?
Yeah.
I'd like to see adult education classes teaching science.
Yeah.
Take myself, okay? I've got a PhD in politics. You know, I have a broad, deep education in a range of social science and arts, humanities type subjects. But my level of scientific knowledge is probably at about that of a 12-year-old. Because that's about the point at which I started losing interest in these things. And I was much more interested in 19th century Italian history than I was in what an atom was made of.
Yeah.
So I've reached this point in my life where my brain has been shaped in terms of its expansion of knowledge down a particular direction, which is normal because you need to specialize.
Right.
But I recognize that there are areas that I don't know enough about. I don't know how a tree grows. I don't know, really, what's inside an atom. I mean, I remember my, protons, neutrons, electrons bit, but my understanding is that things have moved on some way since that model.
Yeah.
But I don't know, we understand more about it now than probably when my school textbooks were written in the 1980s. And it would be really useful if, in the same way as lots of places have like adult French lessons or whatever, where people go either to learn French or meet a partner. But it would be really useful if someone could say, okay, I'm going to teach you the sort of level of physics or chemistry or biology that might be taught to a smart 16, 17-year-old. For those of you who didn't kind of show much interest in this at that time.
Yeah. I've been asked about that so many times, if I could do videos on that, precisely that subject, and I've been considering it, but it's a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
To teach the sort of stuff that I would teach in class, because I can't really use the materials that I have in the class.
Because they're all in Norwegian.
Well, that's not what I'm talking about, but and I'm not going to let you piss me off with that one. The problem is that I just don't have, I don't know how my boss would react if I started making videos in the school physics lab, for example, that sort of thing. And I can't use stuff from the textbooks, like, the exercises, they're all copyrighted. There's stuff like that. So I'd have to make all of it up myself, and that is just...
Or join with a
shitload of
group
work.
of other science teachers and... set up a little association that can get charitable status, approach the textbook companies. I mean, I'm not trying to make extra work for you, but...
that would be a lot of extra work.
That would be a lot of extra work.
Why don't you just steal a bunch of stuff from your school and, set it up in your home?
Because
you're saying
might get
it would
in trouble.
Yeah. I don't know how that would be viewed. But the thing is, another thing that I have been asked about is like the whole idea of doing math-free physics videos. Like can you explain physics without all the math? And that's kind of like I just have to say no.
Yeah.
Because that would be like, teach creative writing without a language. It can't be done.
Read me a book without speaking.
Yeah, exactly.
So
So I'd first have to go over a lot of math, and it would be a full-time job to make those videos.
Yeah.
This is just so much that has to be done. And it's a job I do anyway. I kind of don't want to do it twice.
Yeah.
I can understand that.
But it was
Lazy bastard.
I wanted to say about education, especially, and I don't know what it's like in Sweden, but I really think what's missing in the education here is some classes in philosophy for kids.
Oh, absolutely.
I really, for
It's
years.
the same in Sweden.
Is it? I really think.
We have philosophy classes in high school, but they're not mandatory.
But it's like what I've always said, Elliot. Like what we should have is, instead, if you opt out of the RO, why not give them a philosophy class instead?
I agree.
Have that.
I mean, my understanding is that there, what used to be religious studies, which is separate from religious observance.
Yeah.
Religious studies is now something like moral, philosophical, and ethical education, or something like that. Moral, religious, and philosophical education, or something. And I think they do a little bit of philosophy in that, but not very much, compared to sort of French kids. And one of the things that I noticed going to France is that you meet people ordinary people who are not academics, but who have a grounding in how to think.
Yeah. I think.
And what we don't do very well, I think actually probably across the English-speaking world, and it might well be a deep cultural trait, is we don't do this idea of teaching people how to think very well.
Yeah.
And it seems to be better in most of the continental European countries that I'm familiar with. Mm-hmm. I couldn't speak generally, but we don't seem to do that. And if it seems odd to me that someone can go through an education system and never have encountered so much of our philosophical heritage. And I think that that's a shame.
Yeah. I went through, well, all the way up to college without actually coming across philosophy. I didn't really know what philosophy was until I took a bit of philosophy in college, very little. But that's when I just, wow, why isn't this taught to everyone?
Absolutely. I mean,
no, just to say, I'm pretty sure, Marty, like, well, you're teaching high school. I'm pretty sure, like, even for maths and that, like, it would benefit those kids learning philosophy earlier on, like coming into math class and science class and all that.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, from a very early age. And it's like, you know, we've had philosophers like Stephen Law, and they all tearing their hair out. They can't understand why it's not taught in schools.
Yeah, I have that issue with, like, when teaching physics, especially. How do I get things through to these kids about logical fallacies? Because, I mean, there's the issue of the teacher says so.
Yeah.
That is not a valid argument.
Do what one of my teachers used to do.
Yeah.
He used to, a great way he used to use to test if we actually were paying attention was he would read off something out of the textbook or something, and then he would say, and just to clarify, go over it again but make one really obvious change.
Mm-hmm.
And then see who noticed it. Sometimes you would do it, sometimes you wouldn't, so you had to pay attention. And the people who pointed it out got brownie points, in a manner of speaking.
Yeah.
And it got to the stage that it created this level of pupil interaction that no other teacher could get. So it was actually, and I think he taught philosophy, but his was more, you know, here are some worldviews, enjoy, because this is only a half-hour period once a week.
Silence.
Yeah. Yeah, well, one of the issues is the problem of, you know, teaching physics and not being able to reference things from philosophy is that, you know, I don't have time to teach those things from philosophy that I would like them to know. I only have time to teach them the physics. It would be so much easier to do that if they knew how to analyze an argument properly.
And just to lead into that, on the new show, Londy's doing a good bit on philosophy.
Yes.
He's doing a beginner's guide, which, again, like, the new show's out very soon, so it's another reason to tune into it. Because who doesn't like a bit of Lundy now and again?
As long as it doesn't involve the topic of superheroes.
Oh yeah,
we had an interesting argument.
Yeah, it was after we filmed, we recorded that commentary we did for God's Not Dead.
Yeah.
Himself and Marty went on a good 2-hour debate on the subject of whether superheroes suck or not. Which I really should have recorded that.
I was about to make an inappropriate joke there involving Catwoman, but I shall refrain.
Yeah.
I think for the moral integrity of the chat, you should definitely make that joke. Make the joke.
Yes.
I've forgotten it now.
All right.
Bastard.
I was going to.
Shit.
That's another thing. We are going to consider doing some more commentaries for Trolling with Logic because we do enjoy. The Left Behind series is on our list, and the Principal movie whenever that appears.
Okay.
And there's a little movie called what was it called? What the
yes.
What the something do we something?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of more for your sub base. That one's going to be, Marty.
Yeah.
But I think that could be your 15k. If you want to get to the 15k subs, we could do that.
I have plans regarding that movie.
Oh, right.
Let's just put it that way.
Where should I begin with the jokes? So many options here, Marty. So many options.
Oh, yeah. Go on.
When the victim knows it's coming, it gets less intense.
Yeah.
Or interesting, should I say.
It's
Then they have the chance to prepare by calling the police.
Yes. The same as when you have to explain a joke to someone. It just dies then. 'Cause I have to do that with my mum all the time. Whenever I'm cracking jokes with my dad, I have to explain them to her.
Okay,
Yeah.
you want to try fucking explaining jokes to people? I work in a shop. There are a lot of American tourists around lately. One day, it's fucking a lashing rain down outside. I say to an American woman, "You enjoying the lovely weather? Hey, hey, hey." She gives me a look like I've grown a third fucking head. What do you mean, good weather? It's raining. Immediately, the three customers behind her immediately facepalm, and one of them says, "Fucking Americans." Every problem I've had with an American customer, I have been able to explain away to my manager in a single word. American. And that's it. All is forgiven.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
They just don't get sarcasm.
No, they don't. And I've heard that it comes from the fact that America had such a large immigrant population in the 19th century from essentially all over Europe. And so you had Hungarians, Italians, Poles, all living side by side, all using English to communicate. But because it was for the first generation, a foreign language, and because even the second generation didn't necessarily have the language at home, a lot of the subtleties of meaning that you find in forms of British English were lost. And so they just went for this surface level meaning.
Yeah.
And I find this, I some American colleagues, and I find it sometimes a challenge because they take things at face value. You say something like, I'm sorry I'm late. The bus got hijacked and I had to ransom my way out of Bolivian terrorists or something. And they're like, "What? Really? How did that?" No. I need to go home early today. Oh, why is that? I'm getting fitted for my new jetpack. Oh, you got a jetpack? That's cool. No. And that sort of just sporting around with language is something that just doesn't translate very well into American English.
And
Poor bastards.
especially when you insult your friends in front of Americans.
Yeah.
That blows their minds. It's like if myself and Pumpkin were sitting in a pub and we'd be calling each other cunts and dirty. I'd be calling him a dirty Mick bastard.
Sheep shagging Scotsman.
Yeah.
How does this go down in Sweden? Do the Swedes have a sort of tradition of flighting where you sort of insult each other as
friendly insults?
He's Norwegian.
Yeah, kind of. Shut up.
Starting to get to you.
Not at the level that you seem to do it in the UK.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a tendency, especially among younger people.
Okay.
The cool new kids.
Whereabouts in
something
Sweden
like
are
that.
you?
I'm sorry?
Whereabouts in Sweden are you?
Norway.
Linköping. So it's about halfway between Stockholm and Gothenburg.
Okay. I just wondered.
Norwegian.
It's not working.
It fucking is.
Well, something is annoying me.
Yes, me, by calling you Norwegian.
Mara Ziller is asking all of us, if you could live in any other country that isn't the one where you live right now, which one would it be and why?
Fuck.
I have no idea.
Neither do I.
Holland, the Netherlands. Just because free weed, hookers, a very laid back attitude to almost everything, an understanding of sarcasm, free healthcare.
It's not free.
Bit of a cunty tax system, but in general terms, pretty fucking good place to live. Unless the giant lesbians at the lake burst and then the whole country floods.
Yeah.
That
No,
is
the
what you mean
Netherlands
by
is good.
dikes, isn't it?
Yes. The Netherlands is good, and it is a very easy country to live in lots of ways. So I ended up with a job here because of the dire employment opportunities in Scotland for people in my very narrow specialist field. Although you would have thought they need some help on constitutional design, but we'll wait and see about that. But no, the Netherlands is a very nice country to live in. It's very easy to kind of get around and to do things. Healthcare, however, is not free. It is universal, but it's a universal mandatory insurance system. So you have to pay by law about 100 and something euros per month for mandatory insurance cover. But what they can't do is they cannot refuse you insurance, and they cannot charge you more because of an existing condition or because of your age.
Yeah.
So the whole thing works as one big kind of insurance pool. So it's, I don't know, compared to the Scottish NHS, I think I prefer the Scottish NHS.
Actually, no. I think I'm almost tempted to change mine to Canada, because fucking Canada. Pretty much all of the same things, except some of them are only slightly illegal.
Yeah, well, I think Canada is probably pretty high on the list for me as well, because I mean, I'm definitely not the US, but I mean, Canada, you know, as long as it's not the French part.
Nickelback.
I think the French part needs to be lit the fuck on fire.
I tried to
sound
learn
weird,
French,
but
enough said.
This would just be out of sheer curiosity because the place is so insane. Russia. Just to experience the absolute insanity of that country, I think.
No, I went to Russia when I was in the Navy. We did a deployment to the Baltic.
All right.
And I went to Russia, and it was a terrifying place, and absurdly so, as you're quite right to say. And it's probably an interesting place to visit, provided you don't have to live there.
It's a shit place to live, though.
It is a really, really. I mean, it's just such a. I could spend all night telling you stories of the horrific things that I saw. Not least from the Russian Navy, but on one occasion, I went to an Italian restaurant. We were looking for somewhere to eat, and we had the day off, and we'd been out looking at like the Hermitage Museum and all the rest of it, which was very interesting, but not worth going to Russia for. And we couldn't find anywhere to eat that wasn't either a real dive or astronomically expensive. There's no middle class, there's no middle income stuff that we could find. Yeah. And eventually we found this Italian restaurant, and it looked reasonable. And we went in and ordered pizzas. Great. So we ordered our pizza. That was fine. Ate it. Not bad. Not amazing, but not bad. And then they said, "Do you want to see the dessert menu?" And some of us said, "Yeah, go on then. get a coffee or ice cream or whatever. Anyway, so the dessert menu arrived, and on one side it had the usual, coffees and ice creams and tiramisu that you find on the dessert menu of an Italian restaurant. And on the other side, it had a menu of, let's say, ladies of negotiable affection who were there for the benefit of the customers. And I just thought, this is a really sick society, a place where, everything is kind of traded, everything is a commodity, and I found that a bit sort of worrying. I think I skipped dessert.
No.
But yeah, that was just one small example.
Yeah, like I say, I would just love to go there just to experience the insanity.
Oh yes, and
Because-
ask for the dessert menu in every place, you bastard.
No, but
But
it's just
I
so-
don't think I could go there just for the fact that I would find myself disagreeing with every local to the point that I would either be lit on fire or skinned alive.
But it's just like, it's such a bizarre country, and that's why I read a lot of history and I'm fascinated by it. It's like, on one side you got this country with like an extremely rich cultural heritage in art and music, ballet, ice skating, and yet the men just seem to be these really uber macho guys guzzling down vodka and beating the shit out of gay people all the time. It's just a weird kind of polar opposites exist there. Absolutely kind of bizarre place.
Have you read Martin Sixsmith's book, Russia, the Wild East?
Yes, I have.
It's good, isn't it?
I have read it, and I'm trying to learn some Russian as well. So I mean, it's just fascinating, the place. It's just a weird kind of compelling thing to. I don't know why I've always had that interest in Russia.
It's like watching a train wreck. You know you should be concerned for the survivors, but you can't help watching the flames.
You can't help just being wowed by the explosions and the loud noises.
Have you
I
seen?
think that's pretty much what Michael Bay is banking on for every film he makes.
Yeah.
You might also find this interesting, Cal. Colin Thubron in Siberia. I don't know if you can see that.
No. The other one I've read is the Gulag Archipelago. I've read that.
Oh,
I think so. Like I say, it's just. Russia's just this weird enigma I just can't help study and learn more about. And one day I will visit just to experience the kind of insanity of that place.
yeah, with a kind of grotesque fascination.
Yeah, it is. That's it's a kind of perverse hobby of mine, just studying Russia. It really is.
Yeah.
As I said, I've visited Georgia. Now, Georgia is like, in terms of just, if I could live in a place, it would be in the winelands of Georgia. That would be beautiful. Or in the mountains of Georgia. That would be beautiful. Because the mountains of Georgia is like the most stunning place on earth I've ever visited.
That's interesting. Yeah, I've heard good things about Georgia.
Yep, and it's very safe.
Just a bit too close to Russian tanks for my liking.
Yeah. Like I was explaining to Marty, like, you're going up in this rickety old Soviet-era minibus to get to the mountain villages, and we were stuck because there was a landslide in the middle of the road, so we were stuck there for a few hours, and just over on the other side of the gorge was the disputed territory, and you could see Russian tanks and Russian soldiers taking pot shots at the cattle nearby and all this
Good grief.
bizarre stuff going on.
Have you talked about the formation of the Islamic State and the Caliphate in Iraq before?
No, I don't know anything about it.
That's really the connection was Russia invading South Ossetia.
I was going to say earlier, if you really want to speak to people about that, then 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, go to the Gin and Tonic show.
Right.
Because they deal with Islam and the Middle East. It's a similar show to ours, but their speciality is to you know, taking a skeptical look at Islam and the politics of the Middle East. But like,
Okay.
Ramin, he's been on it.
Okay.
But they're really good. If you go on there, and if you'll be able to call in, and if you want to speak to that, but they would have you no problem. Like I said,
I might do that then, because I can be almost as boring on that subject as on constitutions.
No, but yes, go on to the.
So,
send me a message tomorrow morning, and I'll give you the link to their show, and you can go listen. And if you want to, they might actually be talking about that tomorrow because it's in the news at the moment. So
exactly.
So hearing from a constitutional expert, they probably love that. And like I said, the really, really smart guys like Klingshaw especially. He's
okay. I'll.
Because I think
I probably won't be able to do it tomorrow, but
Marty, he's got a degree in Islamic studies, doesn't he, Klingshaw, if I remember?
No idea.
But no, they're and we've had Stop Spamming. He's called into our show a few times. He's a nice guy. It's just the two of them now that do that. Rationalizer doesn't do it.
Yeah, I don't really follow that show. There are too many shows.
Yeah,
I'd never heard of it.
So no, when we had them on the charity show, I thought they were great, but
very interesting. But it's not kind of layperson level they work at. Yeah, but they're very informative, and they do know their stuff about Islam.
Okay.
Like I say, that's why, because we always have people asking us about Islam, and we always defer to them about it.
No, that's a good idea.
Yep, there you go. She-Mills put the link up to them in the chat room there. So click on that, subscribe to it, and the show stream will appear in your YouTube feed.
Okay. That's good. I'll get in touch with them. Yep. Can I just register the one point though, which is that it's quite scary.
Yeah, from what I hear.
It's really quite scary. But
I think it's safe to say that World War III is either on the horizon or we're in the formative stages of it. There's Russia and the Ukraine saying that anyone intervenes will fucking gut yous. Some crazy bastards in the Middle East walking down, gutting everyone in sight, and just saying fuck the West. And then there's civil strife in nearly every country on Earth at the moment. Mm-hmm. The sooner we figure out how to get the fuck off this rock and onto a shinier one, the better.
Or learn how to live on the rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the question is how
exactly
the whole ISIS thing. I mean, it's going to implode because you can't have a society run like that. It's not going to work.
As much as they have the whole fear us horribly, there's also a great element of you will respect us and love us, and they are, from what I've gathered, actually very good at emotionally manipulating people via social media and interactions. Even if I remember correctly, there was a journalist for some American journal who was out there, not the one that had his head cut off, but another one who was actually found himself, every time he was writing back, he was siding with them a little bit more until the day he saw all of the horrific crimes and just sort of backed off a bit.
Well, but that's the thing.
But
when you have a society that is run that way, it's just...
But they're very good at the you will fear us aspect, but they're also incredibly good at the you will respect us and love us and need us aspect. They're playing the abusive husband in a lot of scenarios, and they're fucking worryingly good at it. Although this is pretty much just me reading the front page of newspapers in my day-to-day job, I'm not a fucking expert on it by any stretch of the imagination.
I'm just looking at. I mean, sure, they can get to a certain point, but I mean, when you look at a society where people like that take over, you get something like Taliban, Afghanistan, more or less. I mean, I don't know the exact differences, but the idea of a society run that way, it's not. I mean, it's not going to accomplish anything. I mean, yes, it sucks to live in that society, but the idea that they would sort of go all Hitler and try to establish this.
Oh,
I lost your audio feed for a moment, Marty.
he's lost his connection.
Has the Norwegian died?
Norwegian internet.
I have no idea.
Hey, we have our Viking back.
I have no idea what happened.
Sorry, you were mid-sentence. Do you want to just repeat your last sentence?
Yeah, I was saying something about how that kind of society, like, it would suck to be part of that society, but the idea that something like that could actually be successful enough to establish some kind to even try to establish some sort of great empire, you know, like Hitler tried during World War II or something like that, I just don't see that as being realistic. They're
No.
gonna have to spend so much time just focusing on keeping their own population afraid. That the idea of expansion is, I don't see that happening.
Well, the Romans did it quite well. They just figured out how to strap people onto pieces of wood and hold them up for a while. And as far as I'm aware, ISIS is doing the same thing.
But
You know what I'm getting at.
that was 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, but seeing someone missing skin strapped to a wall is still kind of scary.
Well, yes, but you also know that that's not how things work in other parts of the world.
Yeah. I'm tired and
Yeah.
too sober for this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I never thought I would use the words too sober before. Never thought I'd use the word sober in reference to myself before either.
I believe that it can be cured.
Oh, I have the cure sitting very nearby.
Oh, okay, that's good.
So do I. I
Am I the only one
I
here
just
that's
haven't started yet.
Am I the only one that's here on tea?
Oh no, I was working with tea earlier. I just
Okay.
put some whiskey in it.
Let's make for an interesting combination.
Yeah, well, when you drink enough of it, you stop caring.
Fair enough.
What bottle are you on now, Marty? Have you tried any of the others I gave you?
This is the cheap stuff.
All right. Have you opened any of the other ones I gave you?
Yeah,
What do you think?
I've tried them all.
All right. Like 'em?
Wait, Cal, did you
They're
take
all
alcohol?
great. They're just well, they're very different. Let's just put it that way.
Did Cal bring you a bunch of alcohol? Much of it was cheap and or stolen.
I don't think it was stolen. I don't know if it was cheap. I don't think so. Not
No.
that cheap.
Wasn't that? Well, it wasn't ridiculous, but it wasn't bargain bin kind of cheap stuff either.
So it wasn't like Tesco's own brand vodka.
No.
No.
It was like two of them were like two of my favourites, and then another one was one I picked at random. Like Glen Rothes and Glenkinnicky are two of my favourites.
Yeah.
I
They were nice.
will need to sample those. Can you please send them to me?
No.
Can't.
There you go. I don't know. Is there
Can you feel the love?
Yeah. I don't know. Was there any other
Cal,
announcement?
you're a bit faint right now.
Yeah. I was going to say, is there any other announcements from us, Marty? Have I covered all the
I don't think so.
updates with regard to our show? Just the other thing is the Patreon will be going live soon. We'll announce that once we get the new episode mixed and edited together.
Yep. We'll see when that. It should be up next week, right?
Yeah, next week it should be ready. And like I say, we'll see what the feedback is to it, and then hopefully we can get started proper in end of September. Yeah, I hope to.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I just hope we can get the rest of the team to be more involved.
Yeah, hopefully. Like say, we are coming
Because
to.
this time it was just the usual
Yeah.
bunch of people, but
Yeah, we'll keep that's we'll keep that behind closed doors. I think.
Yeah.
It's the best place for that discussion. And what about you, Pumpkin?
Yeah.
That's good to know. I don't have any other announcements really.
No.
The chat room, do you have any other questions?
They want gossip.
Who's in the doghouse?
Not my dog, because that fucker ran away.
Is he gone? Completely gone now?
Yeah, it's been more than a week.
Oh, fuck.
He's either dead or disappeared, so I'm just gonna fucking sell his food and maybe keep the toys around for a couple of weeks while I work.
Yeah. I don't know. I've got no other news to add to everything. I think I've covered everything what's happening with the show, and we've had a good discussion with Elliot here. Improvised.
Thank you. Really, it was a pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting me to take part.
Yeah, no problem at all.
I thought I was going to get, more of a grilling.
Well, it's just because it wasn't prepared. Like, usually, like, if you were booked ahead, like, I usually try and find out a little bit about, not too much about our guests. Because I think you're the same, Marty. You'd like to know just a little bit of details.
Yeah.
Because then you can have a proper conversation after, just the bare necessities.
Yeah, I don't want to be asking questions that I already know the answers to. That's no fun.
Well, it's
but then you get to, when they give the answer, you say, but here you said this. And when I was watching you yesterday in the bathtub, you seemed very relaxed.
Oh, shit. Have we talked about the Swedish election? No. And I don't think I will be talking about that because...
Yeah, you like to...
I really don't want to discuss politics because it's such a divisive issue. I mean, it's one thing to talk about it, but I don't want to go into what my political views are.
You like to
the
talk
details of it, I should say. I mean, yes, I'm not a right-wing nut. I'll put it like that, but I don't want to go into more detail on that.
Yeah, you like talking about, in general, political systems and that, but as for preferences, yeah.
It's like asking me whether I prefer Sinn Féin or the DUP. They're both a bundle of cunts.
And when it comes to the Swedish election, really, we don't have much to choose between this time, so...
Yeah. I just want, do people get quite passionate about politics in Sweden? Yeah, like when the election time comes, do people get quite involved in it and that, or?
Well, I haven't really noticed much this time. I think I think everyone is pretty much feeling that we don't have much to choose between.
No, it's...
Wait, I'm confused. Didn't Sweden just have an election?
No. We have one in September.
That's right, it's in September.
No.
And it's, the debates are starting now on TV and all that. It's nothing out of the ordinary. It's just, is it going to be more of the same, or are we going to go for something that, parties that can't get their act together because they can't cooperate, and how much power is going to go to the "we're not at all Nazis, honestly" party.
Do you have a
emerging
extreme
Sweden
right-wing
Democrats? I'll say I do not intend to vote for them. I'll just put it like that.
Are they kind of emerging at the moment as a...
No, they're a small party, but they're growing, and it's just what you vote for if you're pissed off at politics, basically.
BNP UKIP shit, basically.
Exactly.
Which is on the rise all across Europe.
Yes.
I mean, the thing that I find quite fascinating is that the last time there was an economic crisis on the scale of the one that we are still living through, half the democracies in Europe collapsed. People think about the rise of Hitler in Germany. What they forget is that almost everywhere from Germany eastwards, democracy collapsed in the 1930s under economic stress. Now, the economic crisis that we're going through at the moment is not as deep as that in the 1930s, but it's deep. I mean, a fourfold rise, I think, this year in reliance on emergency food banks in Scotland. We are seeing a return to the kind of absolute poverty in several European countries that we thought belonged to, before the Second World War. And that creates all sorts of stresses. My wife is actually a Spanish citizen, and just reading about what's going on in Spain at the moment and the polarization, the tension, it's again quite worrying. Greece is even worse. This New Dawn movement, which is it's a fascist movement, and it's a fascist movement that operates not only as a political party but also as a street gang. It is taking control of various parts of the country, and it's very worrying. Now, this in the 1930s was a phenomenon that occurred throughout Europe. In the established democracies, it didn't overthrow the state. In Belgium, even in France, there were big rightist movements in the 1930s, but France after the start of the war, but they were able to weather those storms. And I do wonder, when you look at the long-term economic outlook, based on our current economic model, we're going to see increasing inequality and increasing poverty. Yeah. And that's going to put a lot of tension on democracy. There's a guy called Harold Lasky, who was a British Labour politician in the 1940s, and he said, either democracy must tame capitalism, or capitalism will tame democracy. And what I think we have seen in the last 30 years in many places is capitalism in its neoliberal form really putting great stress on democracy, to the point at which there is an emergent underclass of people who feel that they don't have a stake in the system. They feel angry, they feel disenfranchised, that they kick downwards. So they don't blame the corporate and financial elites that have deregulated the employment market and destroyed the trade unions for their position. They blame Romanian immigrants.
Yeah.
And that's a really nasty way of doing politics. And again, I think one of the great challenges that we're going to face in the future is building a democratic model that can be inclusive, and that gives these angry people who in a sense have every right to be angry, enough of a stake in the system that they don't just turn nasty. That you see it in the United States with the Tea Party. American politics in about 2010. On the one hand, you had this Tea Party of radical right-wingers who were just on the crazy nuts end of the spectrum, and on the other hand, you had the Occupy movement. And essentially, there's two expressions of the same anger, but attributing it to different causes and seeking redress through different means. I notice a big difference between, say, Britain and the Netherlands. So the politics of the state can make a lot of difference to how well a state adapts to these things and how it integrates. But it's a problem everywhere, including in the Netherlands. I mean, the Netherlands has had an increase in xenophobia and an increase in right-wing populist parties. So far, they haven't sort of threatened the system in the way that it has in Greece, but it's a worrying trend.
Yeah, it is.
Sorry, I went on a rant then.
No, it's all right.
I think it's safe to say that when shit gets worse, you'll find cunts under every carpet. No matter what happens,
Yeah.
assholes step forward to say, we blame these people, shit gets worse, and then they say, see, it's all of those people's fault, love us more.
It's just sort of human nature. Whenever there's a catastrophe, you're just desperate to look for someone to blame. I mean, and that's how these extreme right-wingers, they just thrive on that. They're opportunist.
They're fucking assholes is what they are.
Though,
Hit them all with sticks.
Though it's... Pumpkin, you remember what they did to Nick Griffin's Twitter account this year? That was a pure act of genius when they hacked his Twitter. The things they put on it. It was just... Oh, I was watching that... I didn't watch any TV or any YouTube videos just for 2 days, just watching his Twitter feed update with what the hackers had done to it.
I loved it.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, it was that and like all the Photoshops. And then, you know, I don't like doc dropping, but they went and released his phone number and people were just calling him up, kind of putting on these... I heard some of the phone calls that were meant to have happened and just, they were genius some things.
I think, wasn't there one of them that was trying to sell him insurance for his belt or something? It was, and we can see that you clearly go through a lot of strain in that belt, so, you know, if you want to get insurance for... Obviously it was done a lot better than I'm attempting, but... Fuck, funny shit. And the fact that the guy didn't think to just fucking cut the call, but kept responding to each and every person.
Yeah, because I heard that everyone that was calling up Nick Griffin, he kept answering his phone. Like, he didn't think at some point, I better change my number and stop answering the phone.
This one really could be the pizza.
What are they talking about?
Marty's giving the death stare to something.
He's giving the frown there.
This keyboard displeases me.
So...
I find your lack of brains disturbing. Or something like that.
Yeah. All right, I don't know if there's any other topics that the chat room wants us to discuss.
I thought I was going to get a grilling, but no,
Yeah,
that's fine.
so that...
I feel a bit disappointed. I was sorry.
I think if Lundy had been here, you would have probably... He's a bit more... he goes for the throat a bit more without guests, I find.
Okay.
If I was slightly more awake, I'd probably be taking the piss off a lot more. I'm just waiting for the inevitable guest we have on who finishes the show and is like, I'm never talking to that cunt again.
Oh yes, Marty. Someone's asking if you said anything as ritual the idiocy of spirit science on the horizon. I would say yes, that thing I showed you last night.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, for one, I hope I'm gonna have time to make videos soon. And yes, there are stupid things I want to address. Anything as bad as spirit science. Well, Cal introduced me to a channel that was really stupid, but I don't know if I can address it. I'm gonna have a look at it and see if it's even possible to do something about it.
Yeah, it's like I say, it's
because a lot of it is it's just nonsense. But maybe I can do something fun with it.
Yeah,
but other than that, I've got some Billy Craig related stuff coming up.
Yeah, the guy
that sounds like a sister fucking name.
Basically, the guy I introduced Marty to last night, he rapes mathematics horrifically.
2 plus 2
And
equals
he
5.
tries to talk about physics as well, really high-level physics, but he obviously doesn't know anything about it, and that can get kind of funny, I think, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Then there is the big project that I announced on Facebook, that I am working on. We'll see when that happens.
The big one.
I haven't been working on it at all for almost a month now because I've been really busy. But I am working on something that is a long-term thing.
Yep.
Uh,
I've got a really big one I'm working on with Skeptical Lizard. Marty knows the one I mean, and it is awful to get through it because there's so... The person this is focused on, his style is he just says so many stupid things per sentence, you just don't know which bits you can actually focus on. If I remember correctly, this is one of his statements is he was trying to criticize symbiosis within evolution, and he said because plants come from seeds and that's a symbiotic relationship. Which is absolute. That's
No.
like saying your semen
that's
is...
not what it is.
That's like saying you have a symbiotic relationship with your own semen. That's what it is.
As for who it was who raped mathematics, I'm not going to give out spoilers yet.
Neither am I.
If I decide to do something about it, you'll know.
Okay, both of those people are me. Are you happy, chat?
And as for the big project, I was asked for spoilers. You've been given clues already.
Yep.
I'll just put it like that.
If you've been paying attention tonight, you would have picked it up easily.
And I would pretend that I have a project on the horizon, but I have too much shit going on in the real life to, well, really give a fuck as to what's going on online. Anyone who watches me on Redline's Clusterfucks knows that if I was to be involved, it would be in that ranty form. I'm just not on lately. That's why I'm not here at all.
Yeah.
And there's a guest who had a point. That would totally disprove evolution. Where is the transitional form between the egg and the chicken? Checkmate, atheists.
That's a good point. Never thought about it like that before.
Sometimes guests worry me. Because I'm not sure if they're trying to be sarcastic or they're just genuinely creationists.
What do you guys think about people who are, who are not creationists and who attempt to combine, a modern scientific realistic view of how the world actually works with religious belief or practice?
I had a student like that a couple of years back, and
sorry, go ahead.
We
Mark.
got along great.
Yeah.
We had really interesting conversations after class, even. It was fun. I have no problem with people like that, as long as they don't deny reality or use religion to justify immoral behavior, like running airplanes into buildings or blowing up a busload of school kids or something like that, or chopping body parts off babies.
I actually have a very good friend of mine who he's fairly deeply religious about certain matters, but in general he seems fairly laid back when it comes to the whole creationist thing. Once put it in a way that I found actually quite satisfying, which is God is outside of the universe. He lit the spark and the flames spread, and every so often he pokes the embers and changes things around a bit. And he said that was the advent of Jesus and all that stuff. And even at that, perfect. He was totally happy for me to believe everything I believe. He even said, I disagree with you with some shit, but fuck it. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And it was that level of, as long as, I think He also said, if God is out there in the gaps, that it is our duty and our privilege to search for him and find him eventually.
Yeah.
And that made me happy, because this is a guy who's deeply religious, who is saying it's our job to go out, find Jesus in the parts of science we don't know. And that made me happy.
Yeah. And like I said, there's one person like myself and Pumpkin are familiar with her, Fiona. And like she's totally okay with science and all that, and she is a Christian as well. And I don't, yeah, like, and she is a wonderful person to boot. You know who I'm talking about, Pumpkin, yeah.
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 For a while, I actually thought she was an atheist, and then it was like, no, I'm Christian. Oh, fair enough.
I like, you know, she's got no problem with evolution or Big Bang or anything like that. So there's plenty out there like that.
No, I know. I was just.
But it's just annoying they don't speak up enough for themselves.
Yeah, it's because we're all so used to dealing with utter fucking cunt buckety bastards that you just want to slap in the face with a wet haddock. So that when you do find these rare, on the internet, rare specimens who are like, yeah, go for it, it's fucking amazing. But it's the exact opposite in the real world, where it's, you get the crazy people and they're in the extreme minority, and everyone else is fairly laid back and says,
yeah, and
well,
I think that's a problem for folks like us, because we spend so much time of it on their time on the internet, and the crazies find their voice in there, and sometimes it can give
the
us
rest of them shut up, so I mean...
Yeah, well, but being on the internet so much and hearing you kind of get to a point where you think, yeah, most religious people are like that, but they're not.
Yeah, but if you're watching porn as much
really...
as if you're watching porn as often as I am, then the whole issue of whether someone's religious or non-religious ceases being an issue, because all you're worried about is who came on whose tits.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
That's wonderful.
I aim to please, I just always feel miserably.
What do you make of this argument, though, that sort of moderate and progressive religious participants or religious believers give a kind of cover of legitimacy that protects and encourages fundamentalism? Because that's an argument that I've heard a lot, that, you know, in fact, Dawkins came out and made that point again quite recently, or in an article that was in my Facebook feed recently.
Years ago, I fully agreed with that, but more and more as time goes on, I'm less inclined to agree with it. Because I don't know.
I think there is a tendency that people who belong to a religion won't oppose other members of the same religion, even if they have a slightly different interpretation. But there comes a point when they will. You know, if it's extreme enough, they will.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of all the Muslims I've come across, I've never met one that doesn't outright hate jihadists, for example.
Yeah, it's...
Yeah, good point. Sorry, Cal, you're about to explain what changed your thinking.
No, so I've lost my track of thought there now.
Damn. How dare you, Scotsman.
While you're trying to find your train of thoughts, I was asked, are the students better or worse in science? I'm not sure I understand the question. Like, are you asking if they become better at science when they take my class?
I think what he
because
meant
if
was
that's what they mean, yes.
I think what he meant was the religious student who was laid back. He was asking, were they better or worse at science when you started? Better. Not meant to be offensive.
He got better at science, but he stayed religious. I mean, he was a devout Christian coming into the classroom, and I learned pretty early that he was. It's not something that we talk about in Sweden, but this subject came up, and I learned that he was a devout Christian. it also came up very early that he was definitely not a creationist, that he laughed at creationists.
Yeah.
And the idea that, in introducing physics, I talk about things like, how people like Galileo challenged church dogma, Copernicus as well, for that matter, and how basically people back then figured, hey, the Bible says this, so that's the truth, and all those other people are heretics. And he thought that's just stupid. I mean, if reality says otherwise, then guess what? The Bible is wrong. He never had a problem with that. He never had a problem thinking scientifically. He was just, what I understood from him was that he just felt like he wants to believe that there is something more than this reality. He wasn't trying to say that what we discover about this reality is wrong. His beliefs were about what lies beyond this reality, and it really did. I can't see that it in any way made him worse at science.
No, but it still poses difficult theological questions that he would have to resolve, because
yes,
if you adopt that approach, kind of empirical theology, if you like, so it uses as its starting point reality as we can know and understand it, then you have to go back and look at traditional beliefs, and you have to look at scriptures through a different lens.
Yes.
Which involves a certain amount of reconfiguring of kind of traditional orthodoxies.
Yeah, and I never really talked to him about this, but I have a sort of suspicion about how he looked at things like original sin. Like if the Bible isn't literally true, then there was no apple, or well, whatever it's said to be an apple, but and there was no talking snake. But well, I suspect that
there was a lot of photoshopped dinosaurs, though.
I suspect he thought of it as, don't take it literally. It's an allegory. It means that humans are flawed beings, and by following certain ideals that God passed down to us through Jesus, if nothing else, then we can be better than we are, or something like that. So the thing that I object to is, of course, the issue that there has to be a part of your brain in order to be religious that has to sort of, well, regarding this particular issue, I'm going to shut down all critical thinking. And that's something that I consider a problem. But then I can't see that it really does harm when it doesn't detract from your understanding of reality.
I suppose the key thing is, how big is that area that's not subject to critical thinking?
Right.
And that could be very small. I mean, it could be just this idea that there is something that we call the divine, whatever that might be. But that's, I don't know. Do you shut off critical thinking? I mean, there are some people who shut off critical thinking in vast areas of thought.
Yes.
Because their religious system demands them to.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about people who, won't take blood transfusions, or go to faith healers rather than seeking appropriate medical intervention and that sort of thing. So I suppose it would depend on how large and where, if you like, that gap is. Yeah.
Cal is looking really intense. Yeah, he really did.
Okay, I'm gonna go. I need food.
Yeah,
Bye.
same here.
Yeah. I think we've been doing this for long enough right now.
Yeah, it turned into a good show.
Yeah, it did. It did, but it's dragging on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Anyway, thanks once again. Take care, guys. It's been a pleasure to talk with you.
Yeah, it was great.
Like I say, if you know how to get a hold of me, Elliot, anyway. So.
Yeah, this has all been streamed live, isn't it?
Yes, and it's recorded as well.
Right. Okay. That's fine.
Okay. All right. Right. Thanks. Like I say, thanks everyone in the chat room for turning up, and like I say again, big apologies for not having the scheduled show. I know you were all looking forward to it because the live ponages are always kind of some of our highest rated shows.
Yeah.
So it's a shame we can have that for you. But like I say, what is next week? Next week we hope to have the first episode of our new format ready for you.
And
the launch.
I don't know, maybe preliminary live ponage the week after that.
Yeah, maybe we'll see what
we'll see.
We'll see when we can fit in what we had, and the Patreon will be launching as well, and the show proper is back on the air in September. So that's the kind of schedule we're sticking to. So thanks everyone for turning up, and we'll see you later. Cheers.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.